I don't want a lot for Christmas.
Nah. Oh my god!
You know I had to go there,
I
right?
knew it. I knew.
You know I had to do it. I had to start off with so a little bit of Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I'm your host, James Fauntleroy. It's so good to see all of you here on this special Sunday evening. The Jaybefaunt show is also available on all major podcast platforms like Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, so you can subscribe to me there. Excuse me. I'm also part of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can catch me on the JB Show on Sundays at 1, RBN Live on Tuesdays at 4, and the Savvy and JB Show on Thursdays at 6. If you are new and if you like to get more messages and topics like this, please make sure to hit that thumbs up just to let the algorithm know that you like what you are watching. Thank you to everybody who's a patron on Patreon, Coffee, as well as members and people who send me mutual aid via different platforms. Without you guys, I would not have a channel to be able to do this. Thank you so very much. As per typical, whenever I have a guest, I usually wait till after the guest has departed in order to give my shout outs to people who are in the chat because I want to be respectful of the guest's time. Just to let you guys know, I have an amazing guest with me this evening. I am so humbled and privileged to have Indigo Lett from Socialist Trans Initiative joining me tonight. Indigo, good to see you. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we originally we're on the activist summit, and I was grateful for being on that because I watch you guys a lot, and it was just I was like, man, hopefully one day we can maybe get on there or something. And then like CJ was like, oh, I was like, oh, let me try to get in there.
You're like, oh snap, let's go.
Yeah, CJ, I was like, oh. And so like, if any way we can get our name out there, in any sort of way, I think it's grateful, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. One of the things that I am unique to RBN and really in this space is there's not a lot of us who are, and I use LGBTQ plus and the word queer interchangeably. Hopefully that doesn't offend anybody at all, but I use it interchangeably, but I'm one of the only ones in this space that identifies as that. I'm the only one at RBN that is that. And I'm only the only person who considers himself queer within the space that I know of that is in the left indie media space is Mike Figueredo. Other than that, I don't know of anybody else that I can think of at the moment.
I can't think of anybody.
Z from the People's Voice, I think. But other than that, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head who else identifies who's sexual orientation fluid or gender fluid at all, or has a different gender identity. So I don't know. But with that is I feel a certain responsibility to talk about some of these issues and talk to people and try to uplift voices who are championing these issues. And you're with Socialist Trans Initiative. Can you tell us a little bit about Socialist Trans Initiative before to get our audience started?
Okay, so our group is Socialist Trans Initiative. We're located out of Pensacola, Florida. So I think JB, you're out of Orlando, right? So
yes,
Pensacola, Florida is like it's on the Panhandle, which is literally on the little tiny strip of Florida. So it's not like a place that's really known that well, but we are an organization. We're a queer transgender activist organization. So what we do is basically we're not like a 510c3, so we don't take any like federal donations, but what we do take is like donations from the people, really, the working class people. And what we do with those donations is, like, for example, if a trans person needs HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy. So if you're transitioning either to FEM or to mask, we'll help you, with medicine in that regard, or taking you to the doctor, or usually some people need to go to work, or buying clothes or anything like that. Any little thing we can do to help with the local trans community. We also try to help people outside of it on the Gulf Coast. So we've helped people out in Alabama. We've helped people in Mississippi, Louisiana, a little bit in Georgia as well. Even people who have left us, they've gone like, hey, I'm going to Kansas. There's somebody out in Kansas we know. We've, helped donated some money for them. Any type of like GoFundMe they have to raise for anything, we try to promote that as much as we can. And anything like that, like, like it says, food, transportation, anything like that. So that's what our organization tries to provide.
Okay, great. So one of the things that I was speaking about earlier on RBN was, and I was telling you about this before the show started, was that one of the things that had recently passed was the Respect for Marriage Act. And that act, while it was a step in the right direction, one of the critiques that I had was that the Democratic Party, especially at large, does not answer to the material conditions, those of us who may be queer. And the material conditions being things like housing, healthcare, police brutality, because we are victims of police brutality. So there's various different things that we're not privy to as far as our material conditions, because they do not provide these things. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, what is your personal opinions about the Respect for Marriage Act? And do you think, are you less optimistic as I am, or a little bit more optimistic, or around the same as I am as far as it being a step in the right direction?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say probably a little bit right where you are. Maybe a little less, a little more pessimistic, but I only try not to get that way. I try to be, out of my friend group, I'm more of the positive one. But you keep seeing these situations happen over and over again where they give you little crumbs, like this Marriage Act bill, the Gay Marriage Act bill. Where, yes, if you, let's say you get married in Florida and you go to Alabama, they have to recognize it. But I think I watched a little of the live stream that you did. Like, you're correct. If you, it's leaving it up to the states. It's not codified. Similar to Roe v. Wade, it's not codified. So you're in a dangerous situation where you get married in one state, you go to another state to live and work, and then that state could be like, we're done. We're not doing this. And then next thing you know, you can't go back home. You got this job, but or maybe you lose your job. A lot of things can like steamroll out of nowhere, and then now your marriage is, it's broken apart by the law. And so another thing I think a lot of people are, maybe they're not missing, but a nuance to it, as well as, like, 2024 is coming up. So what they're going to do is, a lot of times you see this with the Democratic Party, is they'll take stuff like this, and then whenever you criticize Biden or you criticize they'll use that as like a thing, like, well, he's doing this and he's doing the Gay Marriage Act and he's passing, infrastructure, and he's doing, and I'm like, no, this is the same man who like did the Iron Dome, right? This is the same person who, didn't codify Roe v. Wade, especially Barack Obama, when he had, in 2008, he had the House, he had the Senate, he had a supermajority. He had 60. Ted Kennedy died, but he still had a majority, even at that time, even after Ted Kennedy died, after 6 months after his and it's funny because a lot of people on the news will go like, what is the president going to do in the first 100 days? Well, his first 100 days, he literally had a supermajority. He could have codified Roe v. Wade. He could have, which helps out not only just cisgender women, it helps out non-binary people, and it helps out trans men. So, and then he could have done healthcare, a better version of healthcare, which could have helped us all out in that case, and a bunch of other things. And so, him not, you know, when you pass these little tiny crumbs of like these types of laws, you're just trying to save face from what
Yeah.
you're really, you know, trying to do. And it's a kind of pretty much a distraction, to be quite honest with you. Like, it's really much of like, we're just trying to like, oh, hey, look at this, and then like we're passing this huge defense bill on the side, and you're just like, well,
Mhm.
you're on internationally, you're bombing queer trans people overseas, you know, but you're giving us this little crumb that doesn't help us economically.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it's just a social thing, and I get that. You know, social issues are important. Obviously, I'm not gonna not
Mhm.
say that,
Of
but you have
course.
to combine both together when you're passing
Mhm.
these laws. You have to say yes, we accept. You know, when back in the day, we accept Black and brown people, we accept, you know, trans people, we accept queer, you know, but at the same time, you have to also put in the economic implications so that people can feel like they're part of society. They don't feel like they're, you know, just on the outskirts or in the poor and working class areas where they don't feel like they're going to go anywhere. They don't have their own means of production. They don't
Yeah.
feel, you know, they feel like it's just a slog every day to go to work. And so these types of
Mhm.
bills being passed, while yes, you know, are good in its own, you know,
Mhm.
way, but it doesn't get to the what's it, the meat of the matter. It doesn't get to the foundation of what's actually happening.
Yeah. That's also some really good points. So, as far as you're concerned,
Hmm.
you touched on really, like as you said, the meat of the matter.
Hmm.
What helped you? What was part of the what was one of the integral parts of your evolution to come to this point of it's like, yes, I'm a socialist,
Hmm.
and yes, I'm non-binary. It's like how do those things intersect in your life, and how did they move you to the position that you're currently in right now?
Okay.
So as far as your opinions socioeconomically.
Yeah. So I guess I'll go on the socialist part first, and then I'll just interject. I like mix in the because they kind of both happen simultaneously. I'd be
Oh,
honest. So
okay.
it's so like I'm trying to think. I'd say I think my first election that I was a part of was 2004, which was that John Kerry Bush one, which nobody wins. Anyway, so nobody's winning here with the catch-up
Yeah.
man. His wife was Heinz kid, but anyway, so you know, I voted for that one, and then we went through like obviously. I mean, in high school, especially after 9/11, there was a lot of discussions on like from my, you
Hmm.
know, from people in our class that were conservative, people in our class that were like more liberal. You know, we had clashes in the high school classroom and college classrooms about, you know, the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, and should we be there, should we not be there, and the
Hmm.
economy and all that.
Hmm.
Um, and I had always been like a little bit further left, but I wasn't like I think I was still, to be honest, I was still kind of in liberal, kind of Democrat land.
Hmm.
I guess you would say like progressive now. You would, you know, and then Barack Obama got elected, and I remember that one. I don't know if you watched the show Boondocks, but there was that one episode where actually they had Barack Obama be elected in the episode, and
Hmm.
there's this song, I'm not going to sing it on here, but it's derogatory. But anyway,
Oh.
so but Huey Freeman, the main character, was very skeptical about the whole thing.
Hmm.
He was like, let's just see what he does. Let's see, you know. And that's kind of how I was. I was like, you know, I'm
Hmm.
happy we saw he got elected. I'm happy as a black person, but like, let's just see, you know, what happens here. And as soon as he got elected, and as soon as stuff started happening, I started looking. I go like, okay, you know, for a lot of our people, that's great. But I'm looking at the policies and I'm like, this is iffy. This is iffy.
Hmm.
You know, when you look at what he extended, the Bush tax cuts, he really, I mean, Black Lives Matter was done under him. So it was like, it was created right under him. So like all the issues with Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin here in Florida and all the other issues, you know, it was like, you know, what is he doing? Like, what is he, you know, and we see it tanks rolling through Ferguson and we're like, whoa, 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 you know?
Wow.
And so you're linking that to what's happening there. And you're like, you know, and then you hear about Libya and the slave trade and all that. You're like, okay, whoa, you know, so internationally and nationally. And then when it got to 2015, I think around, that's when Bernie started coming up. And I was like, finally, we're maybe we got somebody who, and I wouldn't, you know, you still don't put your full trust, but you go like, okay, this person sounds like me. He kind of sounds similar. And then you see the Democratic Party just screw him straight over. Like it was just, I mean, it was masterful almost. It was almost like, wow, like you really don't want, and it really showed you like, this is what they'll do to third parties. I'm not saying don't vote for third party. I say actually do that. But like, you know, like this is what they're going to try to do to you and you have to fight back. I really do love, I think it's Shama Sawant from Seattle.
Yeah.
Love her to death. I love that thing she did with the, what's her name? What's his name?
Ryan
Grimm. Oh my God. That, I mean, it was like a rap battle. You just saw her just like she was just going in and like Bree was like, she was like, just sipping the tea. But yeah.
I was just like, oh my Lord.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is. So I think it was around about when Bernie like got really screwed over by the Democratic Party. And then like if you ever want to, I don't know if they still have it up, but it was a PBS special and they brought on Elizabeth Warren and they had brought the book from Donna Brazile on there and she was like, yeah, we pretty much yes. What the actual, it was so funny because, I'm sorry to go off a tangent, but it was so funny to see CJ and Nick go like, dang, she harsher than we are. Like they were like, they going in harder than like we were kind of soft on him compared to like,
yeah, they were chill, you know.
Yeah,
anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
So right around like that Donna Brazile thing, like Elizabeth Warren comes on to the PBS special and goes, you know, the woman asks her like, hey, you know, did DNC really have it in for Bernie Sanders and did they screw him up? And she was like, yes they did, because in the book it literally, Donna Brazile's book, it literally says that. And then once I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm done. My our president of STRIVE, their name is Devin Cole. And they're part of the Workers' Roll Party, which is another social, a third-party socialist group. And they had always been talking to me about like joining. I haven't joined yet. I might. When you've been in that party for so long, the Democratic Party, and you get screwed over, like you just get burnt so many times, seeing them try to like, oh, we're going to give you this and this and this, and then they don't, and they pull back, and they're just like, you know. And so you just get burnt so many times. You're just like, I don't want to affiliate with no party. You know, you just gotta get in the headspace. But at the same time, I think it is good to like, you know, and this is for people who are watching. I think it's good to join an organization or anything like that, so you can be a part of something. So when people come up to you with talking points, or you want to introduce yourself to people, or you know, you're going door to door and stuff like that, it's really good to have that, you know, organization behind you, so that you can be like, hey, I'm part of this and this. But anyway, so I think right around that same time when I had 2016, 2017, when I had started to go, okay, I'm going to reevaluate my politics. I'm going to reevaluate this party, and I'm going to reevaluate myself within this. That was right around the time when I was going to University of West Florida. And I actually had graduated 2 years before that, but like I was still going to these it's called Gay Straight Alliance at the time, or it was called the Lambda Coalition, but it was the Gay Straight Alliance. And I was still going to the meetings and stuff. And Devin, our president, did a presentation on non-binary people. It's just, you know, just a huge presentation on what non-binary people are and everything. And the one thing they said on there was like, you could still take HRT and be non-binary, which threw me off, because at the point I was still kind of like in trans 101 land. I was like, oh, well, if you are transitioning, you have to transition to one or the other. But like, no, you can still identify as non-binary and take HRT.
Mm-hmm.
And so right around that period, it just did this. So, in understanding the struggles of queer and trans people is a lot of just it really intersects that economy and social issues. So by the time I started to like understand more about myself politically, I also understand it more myself, you know, who I am as a person. And so and the issues, and then when I'm around so many people who are poor and working class and they can barely manage their lives, you become more empathetic and sympathetic to their issues, and you start to go, wait a minute, like both of our parties are not helping these people out. They're not helping the homeless. They're not helping college students. They're not helping, you know, at the time when I was going there, they're not helping, you know, your regular workers. They're not giving them anything. And so I started to move more left then. And it was just like, I started to, one thing I do need to, honestly, a gap is theory, reading more theory. I see your videos on Michael Parenti and stuff. I want to watch all of them so I can like get more into that. Because I know those are very important to have that basis of theory behind you. So when you speak on these things, you have that more, but also lived experience is good too. Like just lived experience and just watching and just seeing how, and understanding and removing the veil from, or removing the glasses, or really in that movie with what's his name, putting on the glasses and seeing the alien or seeing the parties for what they really are. Two capitalist controlled parties that are just out to not work for you at all for the most part. And just to understand like and so within yourself, like within myself, just that intersection, like I said, like it's just something to like recognize. And it was just cool to see both of those like interlink, because it was like usually you see often with, I would say, with white LGBTQ plus people, it doesn't do that. Like you'll see like the finances are like this, and some black and brown, but most time you see with the white, whereas like they fight for the social issues, but the economic issues aren't there. And I'm like, you not seeing it. And so for a lot of black and brown and indigenous queer trans people, once you're already fighting usually the economic fight sometimes if you recognize it, but then the social fight comes in and you start to really see it. You're like, okay, we're getting screwed. You know, we're getting screwed. We got to do something. And so I think that's where I align at.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for that. And actually, you touched on a really good point that I touched on earlier today, is that people, you know, there's an overrepresentation of people who are queer that are either upper middle class or affluent. And people don't realize we're workers too.
Yes.
And so that being said, because we're workers, we also want to own the means of production. We also deserve housing first. We also deserve, I am for a nationalized healthcare system. Because even if we have a single payer healthcare system, I'm not about to have, you know, my rainbow family spending obscene amounts, thousands of dollars just for HRT because the pharmaceutical companies want to charge them up the wazoo for becoming who they truly are, or for anybody who wants to take their HIV meds, or somebody who wants to be on PrEP, or those of us who may be queer, who may be dealing with cancer or dealing with heart disease. So what I mean? So I think that's something that a lot of people really don't take into consideration. It's like we are workers too. We just happen to have a different identity than a lot of other people.
Yeah. Also, like another thing too is like a lot of with trans women, they have a higher chance of getting like breast cancer when they start HRT. Yeah. So that's another thing where you're talking about with nationalized healthcare. I think that'd be great, because a lot of times with HRT, sometimes you may have a higher chance for something because just the inflection of that type of hormones and stuff like that. It you know, statistically, it's just a little higher for trans women, but still, that's something you have to watch out for. You know, if you're transitioning, you know, you may have to watch out for breast cancer a little more than your cisgender combatant, I don't know, counterparts. There we go, counterparts. And so like having, you know, just understanding like there's so many parts to this. There's so many economic parts to just it being a social issue. And I think a lot of times the more affluent queer and trans people, especially the ones who are white, it was funny because I think it was Silva Rivera a long time ago from the Stonewall riots who there's a famous speech she has. She's in this like red leotard type of thing. She's up on stage and she literally yells out and she goes like, look, we do not we do not need the gay and lesbian people to run this movement. We need to let the trans and the queer people run this movement because, you know, or don't let that happen, because if they get in front, not to say that they're all bad people, but like if they get in front of the movement, what's going to happen is it's going to get codified. It's going to get like, it's going to, I forgot, somebody had a word for that, but it just gets co-opted. There you go. It gets co-opted much easier because, you know, when you see, and no offense to these, well, maybe Ellen, but like Ellen, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, the first one, not the second one, but like these shows started coming out and it's great. It's representation, but they're like white people. And that's the face of the movement, not the queer, or not the Black and brown indigenous folks in the back who have more than just issues of, hey, you just, you know, I'm gay, or hey, I'm just, you know, and some issues with pronouns. And then pronouns are important, but like we have economic issues too that we need to address. And they don't want to do that because a lot of people it gets uncomfortable then. It goes like, oh, well, shoot, now we have to not only address who they are as people, but also their issues as well. And that only addresses the cisgender people in those neighborhoods as well. Now we have to, oh crap. And so, you know, and also that even with our own communities, within the Black community, that hits too, because it's like, we don't look at the most marginalized in our own communities and really respect that. And so exactly, like we, you know, we'll yeah, it was funny, the queer and Black trans community will come out for all the Black Lives Matter stuff, rightly so. We'll come out every time there's a shooting, every time there's a, you know, we'll be out there. But you know, let there be a march for a Black trans woman who died. It's usually just the queer community. It's usually just us. And that's the saddest thing I've seen. You know, maybe some allies here and there, but usually it's you know, we usually say it when we do some of our protests and stuff. It's just like, hey, we have the same, you know, people here, you know, and maybe a few sprinkled out here and there that are different, but like it's usually the same, you know, people. And it's just like, once you start fighting for people who are not like you, who you don't maybe necessarily agree with right off the bat, but you know, I think it was I forgot her name, but she was like, you know, once you know, let's walk and talk while we go to the path of liberation. Let's, you know what I'm saying? We might have differences and butt heads a little bit, but let's continue that path towards it, because we're both having economic issues here. We're both having issues that are troubling here, but we're just we're just identifying as two different people, right? Even in our own community, we're identifying as two different people, but we're fighting the same fight. It's just like, why split that up by saying, oh, well, queer and trans stuff, that's that white people stuff, or queer and, you know, that's not of religion, or that's not of morality. And I'm just like, yeah, exactly.
Indigo, don't get me started. Don't get me started, Indigo. I'm gonna look.
Yeah.
All right. Real talk. When we say Black Lives Matter, we mean all Black lives, right?
Right.
So if you're talking about you want us to be liberated, that means you want all of us to be liberated. I don't care if it is a Black trans queen that is wearing a tight-ass leotard and she's over 300 pounds. I don't care. Her Black life still matters.
Exactly.
Okay? I don't care if you got Patrice Royale standing right in front of you as tall and statuesque as she is, but her Black Lives matters just as much as Boosie Badass's.
Yeah.
And so when people want to talk about, oh well, you know, and there's this whole thought that's been circulating in the Black community, talking about how anything that's queer, anything that's LGBTQ is a result of colonialism. That is a whitewashing of history, number one. Number two, y'all forget some of y'all ancestors. I'm not talking to you, but some people, some Black people, some of y'all ancestors who were slaves were queer. Some of them had no choice but to mate with someone of the opposite gender because that's what they did. They were basically breeding them. Some of our ancestors were queer. Some of y'all grandmamas and granddaddies were queer. And some people aren't willing to accept that.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that we're now in a zone, in a era now where it's more socially acceptable, then now people are starting to find out more about humanity and how diverse it really is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and one of the things that I also wanted to touch on, it's kind of a two-pronged question. So I'm going to get in some difficult territory if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But one of the first things I wanted to ask was, what to you is one of the biggest challenges on the left from your intersection, non-binary as well as socialist? Mm-hmm. What is one of the biggest challenges you see on the left? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Okay. I think one of the biggest challenges is trying to pull people out of the Democratic Party, to be honest with you, like trying to get people to realize, like, because what's happening is like we're seeing it every 2 to 4 years, or every 2 years, really now. Yeah. It's like they'll be with us, kind of. They'll be like, oh man, I'm tired of this party. Or, oh man, you know, they're not doing this. Oh man, Roe v. Wade. Oh, you know, what happened with the railroad people, you know, and all that. I'm like, okay, yes. And then, like, you know, the election comes up and it's just like this train they get on. And I'm like, get off the train. Get off the train.
Get off the train, dog.
Like, get off. Like,
get off the train.
Ride. Get off the movement ride. I think it was Bill Hicks who was like, life is like a ride. He's like, literally, like, get off the ride. There's people who are telling you, get off. Like, you're not going anywhere. It's the same thing. And so trying to get people to just understand that, like, the two-party system is collapsing on itself. Like, it's doing the same thing over and over again, and you're being fooled over and over again. And I feel bad for Gen Z kids, because they really came out and they really stifled that red wave that happened, because it should have been literally a red wave that should have just, you know, clapped the Democrats. But you know, but like, you know, they were like, oh, I'm gonna get my student loan debt, and I was like, no, nah, dog. I have student loan debt, and I was like, I'm gonna do the thing anyway and try to get some of my student loan debt off. But I was like, this ain't enough. He should have just canceled it by actually just doing an executive action, just like he did with Roe v. Wade. I'm like, you just done. We're not. I don't know if he could do that with Roe v. Wade, but like with what's the name, he could do it. He could, you know, with student loan debt, he could, you know, and be done with it. And so I just, you know, it's hard to get people who are not only just in the cisgender community, but also in the trans community as well, because like with the gay marriage law, they'll give them little crumbs or little things that they can hang their hat on. And so when you're trying to get people to like understand that, you know, the way that how the government is working is not for you, it's not working for you, they pick those things out. They'll immediately go like, well, we got this and we got that, and we have to vote for them because the other person, no, the person you have now is bad. They're just as bad, if not worse, because at least with the Republican side, they're telling you who they are. Or, you know, some of the moderate, you know, like your I forgot his name. Well, Kristen Sinema is not independent, but I got the guy from West Virginia, but like, you know who they are.
Oh, Joe Manchin.
Yeah, Joe Manchin. You know who they are. Like, you know how they're gonna. But the squad keeps on placating to you, because they're the ones who are trying to keep you in. They're literally like, come on in. And every 2 years, it's like an abusive relationship. It's like, come on in, baby. Come on. Let's do it again. Let's have this. And you're like, you're literally trying to tell your friend, like, you're like having flags. You're like, come on. No. You know what I'm saying?
You're like trying to guide a jet on the tarmac. You're like,
come on. You know,
go left, left, go. No, don't go that direction.
Exactly.
I said left. You. Oh my Lord.
Exactly. And so,
your big ass jumbo jet.
Yeah, and so it's the difficulty in you know, in your different gender and sexuality and your political standing, because you're trying to help people not only to understand themselves, but also understand that like the two-party system is not. For example, like with the with our Florida election, right? So obviously we knew kind of DeSantis was going to kind of, you know, smack. So, but like you look at Charlie Crist, right? And you look at what he was trying to promote and pass and stuff like that. It probably would have overturned a lot of what DeSantis did, but it would have got us back to square one before he came in, which we were still in terrible standing then. You know, and it got worse now. Obviously, I'm not going to not say that, but like. Yo, like, you know that you gotta put, if you're gonna go the election route, you gotta like withhold your vote. You gotta like use that as a thing to say, we're not voting for you unless you do this, 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 and this, and this, and literally say that and put it online, and not just say that, oh, we're not endorsing you and da da da. They're still gonna look at you like we're just waiting on you. We're just waiting. You go vote for us.
And Indigo.
Yeah.
Indigo. I hate. This is just a side question, but doesn't Charlie Crist look like the love child of George Hamilton and Donald Trump?
Oh my god. Oh my god, yes.
I'm sorry. They're all orange. I'm just saying.
I used to say Rick Scott looked like the guy from the villain from Who Framed Roger Rabbit every time.
Yeah. Rick Scott is I like to call him Fire Marshal Bill.
Yes. Let me tell you something. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's just difficult to like you know, get people on that. And another thing I wanted to talk about, your last point about people being queer from the past, is like people often forget a lot of the people from the Harlem Renaissance were queer themselves, like Langston Hughes. I think it's Betsy Smith. There's a bunch of people, and then we know from the Civil Rights Movement, Bernard Rustin, I think, as well. And so there's Bernard Rustin. I always mispronounce it, but there's a lot of queer and trans like people throughout history, especially even Black history, who made significant contributions to our people. And it's just like they're a part of us, though, you know what I'm saying? And so that's also trying to help people to understand, you know, what's going on in this country with the two-party system. Is like, we always have been here. We've always have made our contributions. We've made, you know, we've tried to make greater strides for this country and to make people understand that we're all together. Like you said, all Black Lives Matter. And so that argument is very great, because it is like, okay, we've always been here. Like this is not just a 15-year thing or a 10-year thing that just happened. No, like, you know what I'm saying? There were trans people all the way in slavery, you know what I'm saying? Or queer trans people all the way back then. Like, you know, it just, they had to conform to what society did. And be honest with you, this is exactly why we have a lot of situations. We have a lot of people conforming to things when they, you know, I think it's calling them out almost, in a sense, that we are queer and trans, because it's like, oh, you can do this? Yes, you can. Like, you know, you can be queer and trans. Like, we, you know, and a lot of old, you know, I always feel so sad for older queer and trans people, because they had to like not come out for so long because of how society was back then. And And it's just, especially the Black, queer, and trans that are older, I'm just like, oh my God, there was so much on you. You had to go to the, you had to go into the church and to deal with that. And I'm not saying church is bad, but like,
Yeah.
so,
I got you.
yeah. And it's like, you had to deal with that society and how you had to stay strictly in the gender binary this whole entire time. And then now you come out and then now, this world is open to you, but you're like 60 or 70. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oof. But as long as you found out now and then you're able to live your life fully, and I think that's also scary too for a lot of people. That goes with the politicalness, is to be able to take that risk outside the two-party system, is to be able to go outside of it. That's why I love people like Shama Sawant, because she took that risk and she fights for her constituency and her people, and she wins repeatedly. And I'm looking at the squad, I'm like, you could do that too. You literally have 2 million people on your Twitter. You literally at any time, in any issue, you could be like, let's do it. Let's go. Let's go to the White House. Let's go. Let's go be outside, or let's go whatever district we need to go. So that's kind of the difficulty with being, non-binary and socialist, and trying to get people to not only understand your, who you are as a person, but also understand you as politically, and to try to make those intersections and try to have those conversations with people on a daily, because I think we both live in a red state, so we're both meeting people who are conservative or liberal. Both of them technically right wing in their own way, but so we're basically talking to right wing people all the time. We're trying to get them to understand, like, the issues are bigger than this squabble y'all are having, and we need to make more, need to come together more and have those conversations.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. In regards to us being around for a long time, look, I'm gonna reference LL Cool J in the song "Mama Said Knock You Out." He said, "Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years.
Yes.
We have been here since the beginning of mankind. We ain't going nowhere. We were just silent for a while. That's all it was." But one of the things I want to talk about, and I'm sure you're aware of the conversation that me and especially CJ had a couple weeks back regarding the whole groomer thing that has been circulating now within the left, which is wild to me, but for some reason it's gained traction. Do you think it's just a distraction? Or do you think that there's some elements, some bureaucratic elements that are leading the charge on this? What is your thoughts? Because it feels like we're venturing towards a more social aspect of it, while we're missing the point of it being disenfranchised group versus disenfranchised group, while the oligarchs went out the back with the money. That's what it feels like to me. What is your thoughts?
So, so I remember, obviously, with the unfortunate Club Q shooting in Colorado, a lot of times we, I think a lot of it was during not that issue, but the issue, yes, but like I guess the mindset of it is like these drag shows. Like the drag shows, they're bringing their kids around, drag time story. What's it called? Drag story time, something like that. And so, a lot of that, I think it started there, where it was like a lot of the, conservatives and some liberals too. They don't want their kids around people who they feel are going to be predatory. But I'm sitting there thinking, if I had a kid, I would rather have my kid at a drag time story time than in a church, be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather, like, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, statistically, like, how many times we've heard throughout the decades of people in the church doing what would be considered grooming? You know what I'm saying? And not only just in churches, but also within families. Like, how many times have there been that uncle or that cousin or that dad or that mom, who, I mean, there's been people on TikTok or Instagram have been telling stories about, like, I grew up and, my, content warning, but like, my my mom or my dad or uncle came in and touched me in a certain way, and now I'm in therapy trying to figure out, like, what happened. Oh, that was actually sexual assault, or actually that was child, and I'm just like, yes, what I'm saying? So like, it's like it's projection. A lot of it for me, it's really big projection, and it is conservatives on one end, having this view that they're, and conservatives and people who think like this are having this view on one end and are being distracted by the oligarch, by this issue. And then it's like queer and trans people on the other end who mostly are liberal, left leaning, on the others, you're trying to say like, hey, we're not doing this thing, but it's doing this once again, while like, they're passing other bills, or they're trying to do other things, trying to get you to fight over these issues so that these issues would be, things that will distract you from other things that they're doing, also I look at it and I just go, because it was the same thing like 5-10 years ago with the bathrooms. So like, the bathrooms, and that was a thing, a contention. And then we had the issues of what was it? Oh, sports. The girl, we can't have trans girls play sports because the bone structure, blah blah blah. And I'm just sitting over there thinking, like, it's like 1 or 2 trans people trying to play a sport. Their levels are already low enough, right? Like usually most people have estrogen and testosterone in their bodies. And then often, sometimes it's a little more than others. But when let's say for a trans woman, for example, your testosterone level, because of spironolactone, is going to go like this. It's just going to, and then your estrogen is going to go like that when you start taking estrogen or whatever. So your body is not going to, your body, most time when they check those levels, especially at the Olympics and stuff, they're going to check if your level is the same as a woman. And usually it is for you to compete. So like, and I'm just trying to explain all that so people can, understand. So, and then also we look at it as well with, like, especially when we look at it with Black women who are athletic and they get called different names. We look at it with Serena Williams. I mean, in her early career, a lot of you had men on there going, "Oh, that's our man, that's our man, that's our man," and I'm just like, this is a big, beautiful woman, or a strong, beautiful woman, really, that I idolize. Be honest with you, who is dominating on the court, but because she has muscle, or she's built, mean that she's a man. We always masculine dark skinned women anyway, so that was so like I said, this issue with the grooming thing, it's more or less like it's a bit of a bureaucratic distraction, similar to the other issues, because like they always have to try to find something else on queer and trans people, like I said, with the bathrooms, and then the sports issues, and then even in our state, for example, we had the
don't get saved,
parents' bill of rights. Yeah, the parents' bill of rights and stuff like that. That was basically like, oh, if you, and then we had the CRT thing in here too, and our whole guy's like, woke's not going to be in the state. Woke. I was like, get out of here, get out of here. Woke is a word from back in the day, from the 90s and 80s and 90s, really, or even before, to be honest with you, but definitely came up through the socially conscious movement of the 80s and 90s. And that's what it was called before. It was just, oh, you're socially conscious. You're just aware of your surroundings. You're aware of the politicalness of what's going on, and you're able to take action, or at least let people know about what's going on. And that's what woke really meant to me, growing up. And so it's just another issue to, I think, honestly, a lot of these side issues like this obviously try to put people to sleep. It's trying to put people to, like, the whole, not look over here before they like punch you in the face with something that's like really going to hit you. Like, they're already talking about, for example, that the recession's coming, right? So they're trying to make you not focus on that and fight over these things that are, are important to talk about, but like also, you may not be able to pay your car note tomorrow, or you may not be able to, like, are you gonna get to work tomorrow? Like, is your kid sick? Like, what these other issues that are happening around you, and then you're like, oh, these transgenders and da da da. I'm like, no, like, like it doesn't. It really just it makes me upset, because it just really doesn't get people to where we need to be. and it always
Yeah.
keeps that split happening. They continue to try to split us up every time with something.
Yeah.
And I think this is another tactic of that.
Here's my thing.
Yeah.
If some of you on the left are talking about, well, we need to build coalitions, even if we have to talk to people who we may not agree with. We may have to talk to people who are conservative that we may not agree with in order to achieve a coalition, a working class coalition, so that we can actually get the things that we need. You're also going to have to talk to trans, non-binary, gay, lesbian, bisexual. Yes, bisexual, because we're not doing any bi erasure in here, not on this channel. And you also have to do that with them too, because guess what? We exist and we're also part of the working class. And for me, it feels like this focus on this issue, which really isn't that massive of an issue, I think is being made to seem like a massive issue. But it's just, you get to a point where it's like, is that what your primary focus is on? Because my focus, and I think the larger focus of a lot of us, is actually on the big bad that is capitalism, imperialism, colonialism, because that is what has ruined our lives perpetually for hundreds of years. And so because of that, that really should be our primary focus. I think it's, back in the day, it was, oh my God, the Muslims. Then it was, oh my God, the Mexicans and the people from south of our border. Way back in the day, it was the blacks. Look at here, look at the blacks. Look at these people, they're taking your jobs, right? Or they're coming in. The MS-13 gang. Uh-oh. Then it became the gays. Oh my God. Now it's the groomers. Oh my God. You have somebody in a wig and makeup and flashy clothes reading to children. And the thing is like, what if that person was dressed as a clown? Y'all wouldn't have anything to say then. Flashy clothes, makeup, and a wig. But my thing is, it's like, I think the primary enemy is not anybody that's of a disenfranchised state. The primary enemy is really the entities of capitalism, imperialism, colonialism, because those are what are driving us to be in the disenfranchised state collectively that we're in. And so that's one of the reasons why I want to ask you about that, is because a lot of times we get so caught up in these social aspects. While they do bear some importance, our primary focus are, in order to alleviate some of this, is to actually shore up our material conditions. It's just like for people who talk about the crime issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh my God, we got so much crime. And the answer always seems to be, well, let's just treat the symptom, not the underlying cause, right? And it's like, why don't we just treat the underlying cause instead? And so that's what I see going on. There's a lot of times people want to treat the symptom, not the underlying cause. Even, it's just like, okay, you guys want to tackle sex trafficking? Okay, let's tackle sex trafficking. Let's end the drug war. Let's have housing for all. Because guess what? Some of those that are sex trafficked are a bunch of queer youth that end up out on the streets homeless.
Yep.
So instead, let's have housing for all. So even if a kid is 14, 15, 16 years old and they're queer, if they get kicked out of their house, they actually have a place to live. They don't have to go and sleep out on the streets and try to do unspeakable things in order to survive. And if you really want to tackle it, let's tackle that. If you really want to tackle some of these issues, let's start having healthcare, nationalized healthcare for everybody, so that some of these people who do have some of these issues in their head, they can actually get help and go see counseling and get these things done. If you really want to tackle this issue, let's get poverty. Let's get rid of poverty. The thing is that these are the underlying causes, but the thing is, everybody wants to tackle, not everybody, but many people want to tackle the symptoms.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the symptoms are like, they're promoted as the underlying problem, and how the media does it. They're promoted as like, if we get this, we fight this, then all our problems are solved. Rather than, but then they're trying to hide their hand on that, because they know full and well, if you attack the actual thing that's actually affecting it, then that's going to make them look bad. That's the same thing with the political parties, because like, if you talk about crime, for example, if you were just to go like, okay, so there's a lot of crime happening. All right, so why these people are doing crime? Okay, desperation. Most times it's like, hey, I'm still in this TV or whatever it is, because they're desperate, and maybe they're young kids. Maybe they're, oh, well, wait a minute. Why don't we, okay, if they're young, why don't we just better the education system, make it more fun, or make it more engaging for these kids so they're not so bored, or put more parks and recs and more things they can do in these towns and neighborhoods, so they have things to do. More libraries. I just got a job at the library. I mentioned it when we were coming into the thing. More libraries, more places where people can, find education and do more things. And so they have, and more free access things, not just, you have to pay for it. Everything doesn't need to be under like a capitalist, things where you can enter and you can have, and you can, especially for working class people, to enjoy, because a lot of things have to be paid for these days. And so like, a lot of people don't have the money for it. And so more things are accessed like that. So then the kids are like, oh, I have more things to do. I'm not going to get into crime. I'm not going to try to do that stuff, because I now have more things I can do. I'm now being, educated by these teachers. These people actually, care for me. A lot of times, sometimes too, the teachers don't give a crap about the kids. Sometimes, some of them try to fight for them, but a lot of times they don't. And so like, they feel loved. And when they feel loved, they're less likely to grow up and maybe take part in those things. And now their families are supported because of free housing and healthcare and all that. And now you're in a more comfortable environment. You see it within the middle upper class neighborhoods. What do they have? They have more opportunities. They have more activities they can do. Those kids are better set up for life to achieve greater things, because they have all that stuff with them. But when you look at the working class and poor neighborhoods, there's little to nothing there. There may be one community center there. That community center barely has anything to help them. And they may have the people there trying hard as they can, but they don't have the funding, that the other places do. And so, kids, look at the drug dealer and go like, this guy's making more money than my parents and my teacher combined. so I think I might do that, right? And we're struggling, and I'm like, like, so you have to hit the underlying thing, but the underlying thing puts the fear into the establishment, because they're like, oh shoot, the jig is up if we we ever let them attack that. So
yeah, definitely. So we're approaching on an hour. I didn't want to take too much of your time, because I wanted to be respectful of your time. But one of the things that you spoke about was that you actually did a Facebook Live earlier today, and you're teaching people who are queer basically how to navigate the holidays. So you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So I did a live stream on Facebook Live for STRIVE. It was basically just navigating the holidays. If you're queer trans or queer trans holiday survival guide. I had found some articles, but the main one was this one off of I think it was the Colorado State University thing. They talk about self-care. They talk about picking your battles. I'll give a few for anybody, and this is not just for queer or trans people. This is for anybody. I mean, you can, if you're cisgender or straight, this is perfect for you too, because a lot of times you go into these situations as well. And if you're a leftist, you're trying to look at your parents or whomever who are right or left leaning, or they're liberal or conservative. But for the queer and trans people, especially, picking your battles, like if you have the information on you, and you're well read, and you know your stuff, it's good to go in situations prepared with that, because a lot of times you may have a parent who may talk about what we talked about with the grooming thing. The grooming thing. We also talk about people who, the issue with the gay marriage law being passed. And you may have, on that one, you may have left and right coming at you. Or you may have liberal and conservative coming at you. You may have conservative being like, oh, I don't like this, da 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 da. But you also may have the liberal like, wasn't that a great thing for you that got passed? Wasn't that a great thing? And then now you have to kind of like counter both of them at the holiday function.
Yeah, you gotta go, oh Lord, my sweet summer child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then also just having like an exit strategy, like it's saying on there, or having a plan. Like, for example, maybe you live in California, or you live in Seattle, you live West Coast up north, you're coming down south for the winter, right? For your holidays. Not to say all the South is bad, but if you know, you know. So, not to say, because there's some spots, maybe Atlanta, maybe New Orleans. Other than that, good luck. No, I'm just kidding. But you come down here maybe to see your family and everything, and you have some friends still. Like, you have some friends who still live there. Maybe have some queer, trans friends, or you just have some friends that you still know. Let them know before you get there, like, hey, if things get like a little bit, and they get like, I'm coming over, tell your mom to call or something like that, whatever. Have an extra strategy. So if things get a little dicey at the house, you can call and be like, or you can even set up a scenario and be like, have them call and be like, oh, like, Tom's mom said, they wanted me over. There's a gift over there. I don't know. They have dinner too. I'm gonna go hang out with Tom real quick, or hang out, whatever. And then go over there and be like, oh, I'm over there for a long time. Oh, it's kind of late. I think I'm gonna stay here, or whatever. That was so good. I got the itis, They got that good food over here. Like, that mac and cheese was too good. I'm going to sleep over here tonight. And I come back in the morning. So you can kind of cool down. And saying some of us are hot-headed, but you're hot-headed for a reason, because you're trying to stand up for yourself. And then also, understanding yourself before you go into situations, and understanding your identities and who you are, so you're able to explain to people what you are and what's going on with that. Because a lot of people, some people in the family, they want to understand. They're just confused, and they're just like, I don't know this and that. What's non-binary? You don't have to do a full PowerPoint presentation, even though if you do have it, that'd be great. But if you
and share it with us if you do, what I'm saying?
Just be like, here is the whole entire gender thing. Like, no, but explain yourself, because there's some people in your family who may be queer, and they just don't know how to come out, and they just don't know how, and you may be that first breakthrough, especially for the younger ones in your family, or even the older ones too, to be honest. But like, the younger ones may be trying to come out, and they're like, I don't know how to, and you may be the person to help them, stand up for them too while you're there. Also, decompressing, I think, was on there as well. Like, after you're in that situation, if you have enough money for therapy, decompressing thing, all it is like, if you have money for, you can bypass all that by saying, if you have money for therapy, go to therapy. Like, just if you schedule that therapy session the week right after Christmas is on Monday, you know, and the 23rd to 25th is that whole weekend. You can do a therapy session on the 26th, that Tuesday right there, you know. Could be like, I'm walking right up in there, you know. But if you, but like we talked about before, a lot of us don't have enough money for therapy. There's some therapists who do try to help and they have a sliding scale, but even that sometimes is like, I don't have. So if you have friends, if you have even some family members, but usually it's your friends most time on average, if you can sit up with them, you know, a time to talk, like, oh, let's go to dinner, or let's go to you know, let me kick it at your house or something, you know, and have time to talk with them, you know, have something serious to talk about. I want to talk about my family and what happened and da da da. And usually they'll be like, oh, okay, you know, what's going on, you know, and they'll try to usually your really good friends, especially, they'll you know, save a space for you, you know, and want to talk with you about it and be there for you. So kind of like a debrief about what happened, because a lot of times we'll go through this whole thing and then not have anybody to talk to. And then you're just with those feelings, and then you go to work, and then now you're just crying in the bathroom, you know, about some stuff, and you know, and it's like, oh, you know. So find people, you know, in your community or friends that you know, even if online, even just online friends who are really you know, caring and loving, that you have found a community with, whatever Discord or whatever you're on, and talk with them and have that conversation, because you know, we really, you know, you have, you know, your family's your family, but also they're not. Also, you have a chosen family as well. You may have had, and so I think it talks about that on Twitter too. Like, your chosen family is very important. And if you do have a loved one, let's say you're bringing a loved one with you, that's great too, because now you have somebody else there who can help you combat everything, you know, and y'all can set a game plan with each other if you're dating somebody or you're married with somebody. And so that helps as well. So, but yeah, I think that is just some things that you can go over with. But yeah, so we're on Facebook. Strive is. We're on Instagram. I can bring all the links if you want me to. The Facebook, Instagram, Twitter's our weakest one. We need to do. I need to do better on Twitter. And I'm gonna try to make a TikTok soon. I know all of the with Gen Z TikToks and TikToks and Instagram is, because like they're like, Facebook's for old people, and I'm like, damn, I'm old. Jesus Christ. But you know, they be aging me every time. So Instagram and TikTok is the thing for and Snapchat.
Gotta get on the gram.
Yeah. And so also, if you want to donate anything, we have a Cash App, which is just Strive Pensacola. I can put it in the private chat. And then I'll put it in. Hold on real quick. But yeah, we have Cash App is Strive Pensacola. Then this computer. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. And then we have a PayPal, which is Strive Pensacola 850, which is the area code. And now we're setting up a Patreon as well. I'll put that link in real quick. Yeah, I think hold on, let me my Patreon real quick. Oh, there we go. Okay. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Okay, that's great. And I'm just putting these up here for people so that they can get this, just in case they want to send a couple coins.
Yeah.
The way of Strive to help people, because this is really going towards helping people who are trans or queer, especially when it comes to housing. and this is also extremely important because like I said, there is queer people, queer youth, really, that are uh, bearing a large brunt of the homeless population of young people as well. And a lot of times this happens to them because they get kicked out of their homes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also something that I also try to advocate for whenever I talk about those of us that are in this community as well. And also, they can find where can they find you as well as far as your socials?
Okay. So mine is just Facebook is just Indigo Lett. Twitter is what was it on Twitter? Because I know Twitter is the sorry, I totally Instagram is hold on, I can just look this up real quick. It's like comes up super quick. I forgot to put it in. Okay. So Instagram is Indigo. Let me put it in.
Mm-hmm.
Indigo. Yeah, that's the Instagram. I should have put Instagram there. That one just for me is all my longboarding stuff. But if you want to message me on like, hey, I want to donate to Strive, or I want to know more about Strive, you can do that. And then on Twitter, let me look at that real quick. Twitter. It's Indie Aurora at Twitter. And then I think, and then Facebook is just Indigo Lett. So
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just making sure so I can share my screen really quick before I let go. Sorry.
No, I love when you do the R&B.
So yeah, here's Indigo. Don't get me started. Look. Sometimes I'll be having black ass moments before people, right in front of people.
I love it. Especially you and Savvy together. Yeah, you and Savvy I love it. When y'all do the Thursday show, I love it. I just be like,
oh man,
because sometimes you need that like break from politicalness, and you just need the kind of more the sport, not sports stories, but like other stories that are like outside of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait because we're gonna be back this Thursday, so it's gonna be really good. It's gonna be a really good show. I'm excited to get back into it. I had to take a break last week because I had something that I was supposed to, but anyway, yeah, it was great. But Indigo, I think we're a little bit over time, but I just want to thank you for joining. I'll still be here for the next few minutes.
Okay.
But thank you so very much for joining. It was a privilege to have you. Thank you for the activism that you're doing, and thank you for imparting knowledge onto us so that we are more better suited to know what those of us who are comrades need in this community.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And y'all just keep up the great work y'all doing at your channel and also RBN, because I really appreciate seeing people like me on, being that far left, is just amazing to see, because it's so much so especially where we are in the South, we see a lot of Black conservative or Black, liberals, but they're like MSNBC, CNN, and when you do look at left, usually it's like mostly white, or maybe there's some people of color, but they're like Latina or Latino or Latino. You don't see much of us. And then now I'm like, oh wow, this is amazing. When I first saw y'all, I was like, okay, now we're hitting topics that I, definitely can relate to, but also just, seeing people hit on topics and subjects like how I would, or how, people like and where we are would. So, but yeah, thank you again for having me.
Thank you so very much. See you later.
All right, see you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
All right, so good to see all of you here today. That was Indigo Lett. Make sure to give them a follow, because Indigo is a vital resource when it comes to topics like this. And also, if you guys have not yet, please make sure to give Strive Pensacola a visit, especially if you are wanting to even contribute or just spread the word about what they're doing in order to help people who are in disenfranchised communities. We want to make sure that we reach out to people who are in disenfranchised communities all the time. I mean, look, we talk about the Palestinians. We talk about people from African countries, like Somalia, Congo, Libya. We talk about them. We talk about so many different disenfranchised communities. There's a lot of women who are going through various different issues within this country, as well as around the world, due to patriarchy. So we talk about those women's issues too. So just as someone who strives to bring attention to people who are really going through it as far as this within this system, make sure to, give them as much support as we possibly can as well. So I am going to say my hellos to people in the chat because that's important. And I want to say what's up to everybody. First, we have Neil's algorithm saying, hope you're staying happy and healthy today, Jay. Well wishes sending your way. Thank you so very much, Neil. Good to see you. Emoji. Say, oh, you're trying to say hola, hola, emoji. Swearing Fairies up in his house saying, bestie, I love you. Love you too. Also, do you take requests? Mine is One Song Glory. I don't know that one. All right, we have Bling Girl up inside the chat. Good to see you, Bling Girl. We have Arif saying, thanks, Obama, for corporate supremacy. Yeah, thanks, Obama. Definitely. All right. We have John H saying, comrades, good to see you, John H, as well in the chat. All right. Yes, Sweary Fairy again. We have Colin coming in, says solidarity from Albany, New York. Good to see you as well. All right. We have CBC voter in the chat saying happy Sunday at JB and Indigo Lett. Good to see you. Good to see you. Corona Ursa is also available in the chat saying agreed. All right. Wadi in the chat saying hello. Hey, everybody. All right. Cat Terrell is in it accounted for. Giving Wadi some love. All right. Colin says Ellen seems like a version of a similarist politics. She's gay, but down with war criminal Bush. At least Star Trek Discovery tries it with its LGBTQA characters in cast. Yeah. Thank you so very much for that. Also, let me see. Oh, you guys are talking about you guys are talking about Star Trek. That's based Star Trek. You know what's funny? I never sat and actually watched an episode of Star Trek. Never the original, not the Next Generation. I never sat. Nope. Never sat through Deep Space Nine. I actually never sat through an episode of Star Trek ever. I actually did sit through a movie. I think I watched like the first one and maybe the second. But the 2009 one with J.J. Abrams, yes, I definitely saw that one. Zachary Quinto wasn't in that. And Chris Pine, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that was actually pretty entertaining. Also, Angela is also in the chat. Angela is also a JB member. Says we'll have to watch the replay. Greetings all. Good to see you, Angela. All right. Good to see all of y'all. Oh, hey, Mary Leck. Mary Leck. sorry. That's what it makes me think of. You know, anyway, I'm goofy. But Mary says, learn some things. Thank you for discussion in JB and Indigo. Thank you so very much. You know what? One thing. Oh, hey, Nadia says homelessness hits LGBT adults too, to the tune of something like 40% of all homelessness, maybe more. Absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to also say was that I'm very proud of how open-minded the viewers here are. And I just want to thank you guys for being so supportive and open-minded as well. Because sometimes these things aren't that easy to talk about. And especially with, you know, a lot of opposition that we get from a lot of people regarding some of these topics. And some people may say, well, that's identity politics. And it's like, well, no, because the thing is that we're trying to take the economic policy and intersect it with our identity. Because the thing is that some people will say, well, your identity is important. It's like, yeah, but what about our economic needs? And then they go, what economic needs? We don't know about any economic needs. And we're like, we're homeless, we're poor, we have healthcare needs. You guys are also sending us in the military out there to be cannon fodder too. This is also very important. Like, why aren't you talking about this? And it's like, well, at least you guys can get married. And it's like, yeah, we can get married. We actually like that. Well, it's cool. But what about housing, healthcare, education? Some of us have student loan debt. Some of us have medical debt. Some of us are disabled. Why not talk about that too? And so I think that's one of the important points, you know, to talk about this as much as we possibly can. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in, because this is something that, you know, needed to be talked about. And I'm actually happy to, you know, use my platform, as small as it is, in order to uplift activists and organizers like Strive as well. Nadia says, I've never been a fan or anything, but I probably remember the 1978 film the most because nobody would shut up about Persis Kambata being sexy even while bald. I wonder how I would look. Well, I probably wouldn't look that much different if I was bald. Maybe I should try it once. I think I did it way back then because I shaved. I was trying to cut my hair and do it myself. Oh God, it was horrible. But maybe I should try it. Maybe I should just try just bald with just a beard. Who knows? Maybe I might look good with it. Creative Experiment says it's Squid Game out there. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah. QB Socialista says she was sexy bald. There's some women that can rock bald like nobody's business. Like, I'm just like, wow. Maybe you should keep your head shaved more often because you look good. You know, especially when they got like the long dangly earrings or the big hoops. It's just, oh, the way it frames the face. Anyway, but yeah, one of the things that the hell, one of the things that I was talking about earlier was about the bill regarding the Respect for Marriage Act. I actually covered that on RBN. So if you guys want to see that, then go ahead and go to RBN to go and take a look at that on my show, on the JB show. Oh, excuse me. But one of the things I was actually referring to was the fact that it just makes it so that if you're married in another state, then the state that, even though they don't have same-sex marriage on the books legalized there, they actually have to respect your marriage status if you are married to the same gender or if you're married to somebody of a different race. So that basically says that they have to be respected, that has to be honored, which is a step in the right direction, but it does not hit, number one, it does not codify. It does not codify same-sex marriage into law federally, as well as number two, when it comes to our material benefits, our material needs as a people, it does not address it. and they will not address our material needs, because if that means addressing our material needs, that means that they have to not just do it for us, but they got to do it for everybody, which also challenges the power of the oligarchs. It challenges the power of the people who really want to keep us repressed, depressed within this capitalist system. So that's one of the things that I actually was talking about earlier today. And really, to be honest with you, those of you who may be watching now or watching on a rewatch, I just want you guys to realize something. We are all workers. We are all either workers or poor, and we all need to come together so that we all can actually have true liberation. So just because you're maybe cis, white, and heterosexual, that doesn't mean a thing, because guess what? If you're a worker or if you're poor just like me, guess what? We have a lot more in common than you think we do. And that being said, we absolutely have to come together. And this needs to be a dictatorship of the proletariat. And I can live my life and you can live yours. The thing is that in order to be able to do that, we have to come together, because we need to take it out of the hands of these oligarchs, because they're literally ruining our planet and our society as we speak. So let's stop fighting each other, and let's team up, and let's win this class war. So yeah. Anyway, I just want to thank you guys for watching this evening. I gotta go. I gotta eat some dinner. I'm hungry. Plus, I got dialysis in the morning, and I gotta be up real early. And yeah, I gotta get my beauty sleep, because I ain't looking so beautiful tonight, right? Okay, so thank you to everybody. Also, did you like the stream? Did you subscribe? Thanks, comrade. Thank you so very much. Also, thank you to everyone who is a patron on Patreon, Coffee, people who are members, also people who send me mutual aid. Thank you so very much as well. If you guys would like to send me some mutual aid or something like that, it's also linked in the description below as well as my socials are also in the description too. Thank you so very much to everyone who's been in the chat. You guys are awesome. And oh, by the way, Rory O'Neill, I see you on Rockfin. I didn't forget you. Good to see you, Rory. All right, everybody. Look, like I always say, water your plants, water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. If you want to smoke a little, if you got them, go ahead and do a little bit of that. If you want to drink them a little bit, take a little shot and go ahead. If you don't do any of that, look, watch something. Watch something funny. You're watching me on YouTube. Go ahead and go over to watch something that's a little bit funny, something that gives you a little bit of joy, because that is revolutionary as well. Laugh. Find something inspiring. Tickle yourself with a feather. Forehead kisses, mwah, to every single one of you. And have a great evening. All I want is not for Christmas. I just want to have my own. Baby, all I want for Christmas is you. All I want for Christmas